Hello and welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host David and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
Hi David, how are you?
I'm good. We're here once again to talk about a movie that came out. It's not as new a movie. It came out a couple of weeks ago. We thought we'd give it a bit of time just to not spoil it for as many people, but we're going to be talking about the new Hercule Poirot movie, A Haunting in Venice.
This is Kenneth Branagh's third entry into this trilogy now. A franchise, I think, has now been saved by this movie.
You feel that it was saved? Okay, so you thought that do you think that the first two were on a kind of decline? You know, did it start high and then decline for you and then this brought it back? Or were they both kind of simmering, I suppose? You know, you weren't too excited about either of them, but then this one reinvigorated, like, oh, I want to see more now.
I was tremendously excited for Murder on the Orient Express. The fact that, oh, what's this Pierce Brosnan looking fella in this movie? And turns out that's actually Kenneth Branagh. He also directs these movies, playing Hercule Poirot, a man famed by previous adaptations of Agatha Christie novels, now being brought into our generation to see these IEP adapted into movies. And it's known for introducing characters played by all-star casted talent, and similar to, let's say, the Knives Out movies, but definitely with this, the first one out of the gate, we have who's the one who played Catwoman in Tim Burton's Batman? Anyway, her and Johnny Michelle Pfeiffer, and then Johnny Depp, and then Josh Gad, and Dame Judi Dench, and Olivia Colman before she was recognised, and then, so it was good. I liked it. End of. Death on the Nile delayed 2 years because of COVID and the Fox merger. It was shot, and then Kenneth Branagh went to shoot Belfast, and then Belfast released first, and then eventually Death on the Nile was released, and it was a disappointment in my opinion. And now,
it's like you're saying there. It's funny that Death on the Nile was so long that it kind of was announced. A trailer came out in that time. Then Kenneth Branagh went and filmed Belfast, released Belfast, and then in that time, then Death on the Nile was finally released. So that's such a long production. Not even production, but just kind of release window meant that once Haunting in Venice was then announced, it was like, oh, I feel like I only just got, the last entry in this. All of a sudden we're getting a third movie. But for Kenneth Branagh and the cast, it's 3 to 4 years, what you kind of averagely expect for a sequel.
These days, yeah, definitely 3 or 4 years, and I guess it could be considered 3 or 4 years maybe when, they were on the production of shooting Death on the Nile. But this time they do a different approach with the whole supernatural element. So it's not just a typical whodunit murder mystery, paint by the numbers. It takes a different formula of introducing horror elements. So it's taking place one night, one location, Halloween, someone's murdered, but there's a bit of supernatural up foot, and we don't know if it's true or not. It's sort of playing with the borders. So should we start? I don't feel the need to really talk about spoilers all too much. If those who listening to us, if they have seen the movie, then please keep listening to us. But if you feel interested in watching this movie, go for it. If you can like this taste, because David, when I say this movie saved the franchise, it did so, and yet it still is something very different. It took a new approach, not just with the supernatural element I've just talked about, but even how he shoots the movie. Brought back all the Dutch angles he was known for in Thor. So he would frame characters on one side of the frame, let's say the left, and the background, wherever it may be, on the right. And it's not that you're going to be thinking, oh, something's going to pop out in the background. It's the fact that the way he positioned actors and depth, there's an eeriness to it. It's a bit uncomfortable, and it's as cozy as it is creepy. The fact that they're in this haunted, well, I keep saying haunted mansion, but the whole haunting vibe is there. But it's in a mansion, in a building above water in Venice, Italy. And I thought that this location served the entire movie justice. And then, like I said, playing with the camera work again, so you kind of brought it to give that sort of even isolated feeling, because these movies would have a bit of an isolated feeling because of the singular location or a trapped location. Like, one of these people in this environment with me is a murderer, and the fact that I was just paying attention to some of the camera work where you would only see Hercule Poirot's perspective, and you would see those around him, and there was a bit of uncertainty because they would either be out of focus or enter in frame and then exit in frame by way of Poirot's perspective, looking at them or looking at something else. I thought it was actually really done very well, and I didn't think this movie was going to be good at all. I didn't have it on my watch list. I didn't think it looked all that great. I compliment it for it having a new approach to try something different, but I thought it was just going to be a throwaway thing. And I tell you, not only did this, like I said, movie save the franchise, and it made you a good time, a couple of fright scares got me. And the fright scares got me because it wasn't a jump scare. It wasn't building up to like, oh, slow person walking in a dark alley, and then all of a sudden, bah! No. It's just a bah, like that. Something pops out and scares you, and you weren't expecting it. So, I want to see more.
I like what you said there about the kind of house being as cozy as it is creepy, and I think that the like you're saying there with the camera angles, like that you're seeing, like the house, it feels like the house and the location is very much as much of a character as any of the other characters, and it feels like almost the house is a suspect. Like you're saying there with the supernatural element, I think that they definitely needed that. I think that the franchise kind of need a little bit of invigoration in terms of it. We've seen now Hercule Poirot on the train and on the boat, and he figures it out, and it's kind of not so much paint by numbers, but like you kind of just know, like, okay, it's one of these people. But introducing that kind of supernatural element to it, it's like it's nearly your second guessing. Oh, is there something else going on here? And the way that the house is kind of the house plays a part of that. The stories about the children that used to live in the house, the fact that the murders seem to kind of take place almost impossibly. In the other ones, it's very much that somebody was killed and someone here is a suspect, whereas with this it is kind of framed like, oh, it almost could be a ghost, that's getting everybody that like we said there, spoilers, like with Jamie Dornan's character, that he's locked in a room that it only has one key, and Poirot has the key. So how did he die? And because he was a doctor and the kids were looking for him, and stuff like that. So it does definitely play on the supernatural element to kind of, I suppose, take Poirot off his normal footing and give him a bit more of a challenge that even he's starting to question it. He obviously kind of hits his head. And as well as that, as we find out much later in the film, that he's been hallucinating, that he's been a little bit poisoned with some of the honey.
Hence the ghostly scenery he does be seeing.
Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of he doesn't believe his own eyes. So if our character, who's the smartest man in this world, he can't believe what he's seeing, then we should also be kind of questioning like what's going on. So I think that the location of the house, the fact that it's like you said there, it's all one day. With the other movies, with Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, they felt much longer. With Death on the Nile, it feels like it takes place over a couple of weeks, and then you're kind of getting to know the characters, and then then the murder happens. Whereas this, it's literally, we start at the morning with his breakfast, with Poirot's breakfast, and then it doesn't end until the following morning, where he's invigorated. So having that kind of condensed space, all the characters are locked in, it feels like the house, it's claustrophobic within the house, the storm going on outside, like it's like the perfect recipe for this kind of a story, and then adding the supernatural element on top of it. If it had just been a simple case of, okay, I know that obviously there wasn't that supernatural element in the end, and if it had just been presented as kind of a Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile, that it was one of yous, and I know for definite it's one of you, but having him question it as well, it kind of adds that, the eeriness. And then, like you're saying there, with the camera angles, seeing the Dutch angles, or you see like the character in one frame and then like like a weird hallway, just like darkness, and you're like, okay, anything could happen in this house, anything. Although somebody has tried to make it their home, and it has that cozy atmosphere, like in some rooms you go in and it's nice warm lighting and it feels like someone does live there, but then in other rooms, like in hallways, that there's like paintings that haven't been hung yet, and then they find the secret basement, where there's bones and stuff like that. You're like, okay, this is just as creepy, like you're saying there. Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. Like, even though it's cozy and this is someone's house, this is also a place where people died, and you just don't know what could happen and what lurks around every corner. So I think that, it did that really, really well. It used that to its advantage, definitely. Sorry for rambling there. I know I went off a bit.
No, I love it when you ramble. It goes to show so I don't have to interrupt you. I thought that Hercule Poirot was on a journey in this movie, because from the get-go, he's brought in by the author to oversee the seance, which is the pretty much the whole starting point of the mystery. And he just, like, within not even a minute, he solves it. Turn off the lights, stop everything, grabs your man who's making it appear that there's a ghost on the typewriter. No, he's just got like a little device that's making the typewriter punch. He pulls him out from under the chimney. He's like, and like, I spotted this clue on the door of the key lock, and I spotted this clue, and like, you're all phony. They're by pretty much the point of the scene, as he has stated throughout the start of the act. Ghosts are not real. And as soon as the murder happens, and he starts looking up at the little M out of the water on the wall, M for murder, I'd imagine, and then he starts listening to a lullaby of a girl echo in the halls that he's only hearing it, and he's saying, do you hear that? No one hears anything. That's when you know it's like, oh, bring on the chills, bring on the Scooby-Doo-ness. So Hercule Poirot, he doesn't know if things are real, and when he sees something in front of him, he's treating it as such. So he sees a little girl hiding. Hey, have you been here hiding the whole time? So, okay, this is either a ghost, or this is a real girl who was one of the orphans who stayed behind, and then where is it going to pay off? But I guess I think she did look like the girl who was murdered before this movie started, and then the author, who's pretty much his companion throughout the movie, to bounce off of. So like, okay, so we know like Hercule Poirot and herself, the author, are like obviously not the murderers, but then it's going to be a whole second guessing part. But that type of thing in a horror movie where the main character's walking in a hallway or in a room on their own, and they see something, and then one of their companions walk in. It's like, hey, you okay? He looks at them, and then he looks back. The thing he saw that was very,
he's gone again.
Yeah. So like that, that type of thing, I think that happened a few times, and then you just couldn't trust really almost any of the characters. You had the thick ex-boyfriend, you have the very smart, therefore untrustworthy child, you have the mentally ill doctor, you have the mother who lost the child, you have seemingly, I guess, revealed halfway through the white bodyguard who to be untrustworthy, and then you have these two young kids who are working with you, one who was murdered, and they seem to be like not telling the whole truth of anything, and then revealed later that the author was not so very let's say honest about the purpose of bringing Poirot in, because she's looking for a good story to write. I like the selection of characters, and that Poirot, he truly is alone, and like it could have been anyone who could have tried to drown him, because in that scene, getting back to when Poirot is growing as a character, Michelle Yeoh, the murder victim, throws on I guess what could have been an iconic costume to see a killer wear, with the white mask and the black hat and the black robes. Like, if we saw someone commit a murder wearing that costume, that could have been like a type of like figure, like a Phantom of the Opera committing a crime.
Absolutely.
And like
Yeah.
you don't know, oh, maybe this is like a ghost portrayed in this figure. You know, let's say if let's say Poirot tripped him with his cane, goes to lift off the mask, and then the cloak just drops and it's like nothing. It's
Yeah.
like a ghost.
Like
so I thought,
Obi-Wan,
yeah. So like that could have been like, not that it was not a missed opportunity because that's not what they were going for, but it just seems iconic. So if you look at the posters, that ghostly figure is on the posters, and in my opinion is the embodiment of the may or may not be ghost. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that Poirot tried to have a bit of a laugh. He tries to bite the apple from the water and to have a bit of fun, like. And I thought I like this little character development. It's not that it's not something he would do. He's trying to lighten up, and then he gets someone to come to drown him and bash his head in, and then was that when he got drugged by the honey and therefore hallucinated?
Yeah.
That's where.
See, I wasn't sure to begin with when watching the movie. I'm like, I just assumed that because he hit his head and he was bleeding a bit, I was like, okay, he's got a concussion, so he's hallucinating from that. But then, as we find out later on, he's been slowly poisoned as well, which was the same poison that the original victim, I can't think of her name now, but that's kind of what was happening to her, was that she was being slowly kind of poisoned and she was hallucinating, and that's what led her to jumping out of her balcony and killing herself. So you can kind of see that it's that's how Poirot figured out that what was happening to him must have been what was happening to her as well.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
She actually died.
Like
you go first.
No, please.
Thank you. She actually died with the poisoning, and then the mother tried to make it look like a push or a suicide, so to speak.
Oh yes. Sorry, I forgot about that.
So yeah, spoilers, but you're listening to us. The mother did that.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, but with Poirot, it was nice to see that little bit of character development. All right, like that is like that he wouldn't normally do that. Like he is a nice guy. Like you wouldn't think that Poirot would kind of ever be bad on anyone.
Yeah,
without reason. So
he is
nice.
charming. He's charming, so he'd be charming to women, and he'd be sweet to children, and he's not a bragger about himself. He knows his skill set. He knows what he does for a living. Now, it's starting off in this movie, he is retired, but when he's locked all the doors and he says one of you is a murderer, when you get the police on the phone, tell them that Hercule Poirot was on the case. It's like, oh, get them goosebumps going, because you know he can do it and you like him for it. And I thought that at the end of the movie, when he's like going to the child, it's like, you know, the murderer thought it was either the doctor or the seancer, if that's what the medium, let's call her, was the one to be blackmailing her, hence the committing the murders. No, it was the child who was looking after the father, which is a real sweet relationship. I really like the relationship between the father and the little boy, and I thought that, you know, Hercule Poirot, he's not like he's forgiving for that. He's not going to report him or anything, you know, and like he's a real nice guy, and for an old fashioned, he is that like he is like the type of character, especially in this movie, to just come straight from the pages of a detective noir mystery, and that this movie, watching it, really felt like reading a book. I felt like this is how this movie is in the pages of a book. Literally the book itself, I thought that I feel like I'm reading a book watching it, just because of how he shot it, because it's heavily stylized. Just to top up on that is that I thought that actors performing their roles were very theatrical and maybe over dramatic in delivering their performances, but Kenneth Branagh comes from theatre, and that is not a bad thing. I actually put a little unique spin on it, make it more interesting.
Do you think that he did that because, like, and I want to say this with, like, I don't want to come across as me in saying this, but with the other two films, both Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, it feels like those were, in a way, more star-studded. Like, I don't know if you remember that initial teaser for
I remember
Murder on the Orient Express, when it's just like going through the train and it's just like all the other characters, and it's kind of like like Willem Dafoe, the professor.
Yeah.
Dave Judi Dench, the Duchess, and it's kind of like okay, it's very much like these are the actors and the characters, and then with Death and the Nile, it felt like it was a bit more star-studded. So I don't know about you, but I felt like while the performances were a bit more theatric and a bit more like kind of, I suppose, bigger performances, it's because of the fact that the actors weren't as, high profile. It's like, okay, Kenneth Branagh knows that, okay, this cast isn't as big as some of the other ones, so let's make the characters big as context. Because I think in some of the other ones, sorry to cut you off, but like, say for example in Death in the Nile, like Russell Brand's character, that just felt like, oh, it's Russell Brand playing the character. It didn't feel like he was just Russell Brand on Death in the Nile. Do you know what I mean? Like
it's like in a, let's say, maybe too detailed of an example. It's like Tom Cruise playing Tom Cruise, but we know he's a good actor because of everything around him. Or maybe on a perfect example, Dwayne Johnson playing Dwayne Johnson, or Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds. Yes.
He doesn't play characters; he plays himself.
But maybe those would be two ends of the spectrum, and what Kenneth Branagh has got from these movies is like in the middle. But I don't know. I do agree with you in that sense, maybe, like, because and we know these actors from little to nothing, therefore they can be these characters because the majority of audiences don't know them from anything. However, I think this cast is better than the one in Death and Denial.
I think that they gave a lot more, and I wanted to see more of them, if that makes sense.
Well, like, it's more so in the sense that I like who they got. So Jamie Dornan, he's not now known for the guy from 50 Shades of Grey. He's known for more. Tina Fey, comedian who's always worked with Amy Poehler, like I know her. Kelly Riley from Yellowstone, I know her. And then Michelle Yeoh just won an Oscar from last year. So. Like, to me, I like that cast more than fucking Gal Gadot, and now everyone hating Armie Hammer and Russell Brand, who controversy. So it's like, I don't know. I like this cast more, and I don't know. Jeez, I actually might like this movie more.
Yeah,
I might like this. I might like this movie the most. But I do agree with that. Like, the characters in this are likable. Very likable.
I think it was a fantastic choice to get Jamie Dornan and Jude Hill back, because obviously Kenneth Branagh worked with both actors in Belfast. They played father and son, and then they are back again playing father and son, and they hit the nail on the head. They're just great. They're a fantastic duo. To
keep it coming.
Watch, keep it coming. I actually like Jude Hill. Like, it's going to be great to. I hope he stays acting. I hope that we get to see, over the next 20 years, like as he ages up, that he gets to be, how old is he? 10 years old. Like, when we're in our 40s, that he's 30, and we're like, oh, we've been watching this kid since he was, a kid. We've been watching this guy since he was a kid. So I look forward to seeing that. But yeah, it's. I
think we're much older than him in that age range comparison.
Maybe so. Yeah. Look, I like to think that we're young. We're young. We're just young kids as well, right?
Young, but we're the oldest of the young.
Yeah. Do you want to roll into some flashbacks? You got any flashbacks?
Yeah, I only got one flashback, David. How many do you have?
I think I've got 2 flashbacks.
Well, then why don't you take us away?
Well, before we take us away, Laura, take us away.
Excuse me.
Thanks, Laura. So yeah, I've got 2 flashbacks. So one was something that people might know already, because it kind of says at the beginning of the movie or at the end. But this film is an adaptation of an Agatha Christie novel. It's based on her 1969 novel Halloween Party. However, the setting has changed. It went from the UK to Venice, Italy, and it's actually the first time that this story has been adapted into a feature film.
An Agatha Christie novel adaptation. Like, wow, how did you nail that? It's almost like we didn't edit it out. I like that this was the next choice to adapt. I know jack all and piss all of any of her novels, and I could have after Death and All, I could have just looked up, I kind of want another one. And what ones could Kenneth Branagh have done? Well, I think he chose the right one. And like I'm looking up, all right, what could he do next? You know, because I want to see more. So this like I said, this was the right choice in every way possible. And I think it's a good choice. Yeah.
I hate to call you out, but like I know you're a liar because I know you've read And Then There Were None, and that's an Agatha Christie.
That does not have Hercule Poirot in it, and I forgot about that.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, but have you got a flashback?
I do have a flashback. David, this movie was announced with the cast in October 2022. It's not October 2023 yet, and the movie's been released.
Yeah, that's a crazy turnaround time. Like we were saying earlier, it definitely felt like it felt like the other one definitely had just come out, and then all of a sudden this one was announced, and it's like, oh, okay, another one. It was a really quick turnaround time, and I to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad of it. You know, I don't really like okay, we'll announce a movie 4 years before it comes out, and then you're waiting the 4 years, and it's disappointing. So just like a quick turnaround time on that is like really good. I appreciate it.
That's my flashback, David. Do you have any more flashbacks?
I do. I have one last one. So Kenneth Branagh, who was the director and also Hercule Poirot, he worked closely with the technical department to cause surprises for the cast. The actors were not warned about lights going out suddenly or gusts of wind slamming doors on the set in which they worked, causing genuine confused and startled reactions from the actors to appear in the film. And that's a great choice to keep the actors on their toes.
So, do you think he would have had to have multiple cameras pointing at as many actors as he could in getting their first initial reactions to gusts of winds and doors banging? Because once you do that a few times, it's like the actor is only acting in that initial emphasis on initial reaction of, oh my god, what was that fright? And like, I'm still acting and performing, but like, you got a true natural reaction out of me. How many cameras do you think they would have had to put up on them? Because like if I'm shooting like if I want to get that true initial reaction, and I want to get all my actors' reactions in it, well then I'm gonna have a couple of cameras on there. So
absolutely, yeah. I think that he would be crazy not to have just intense coverage, like, you know, okay, today we're having 12 cameras on set, and we're going to get all of you, and we're also going to get all of you in doubles as well. It just
highly doubt that they would have had 12 cameras.
No, definitely not. But it's like, okay, how many can we get on set? Those genuine reactions, like you said, you can't after that initial scare, and you kind of know it's coming. Even if you don't know exactly when it's coming, you still know it's coming. So you're gonna lose that out. If you actually watch Die Hard, a little bit off topic, but if you watch Die Hard, when Hans Gruber falls from the tower, they surprised him with the drop. He didn't know when they were going to drop him, or they said like, oh, we'll drop you on 5, and they went 1, 2 and dropped him. So if you actually watch that scene, his face is his genuine, like, you know, not expecting to fall because he was preparing himself still. So that's kind of a one and done. Like, you know, you can't fake that after it. You know, the actor's going to know, and then becomes acting again. So
I'm looking forward to Christmas and watching it.
Yeah, definitely. Keep your eye out for that. But I think that wraps up our flashback segment. If you want to play that jingle, Laura, and then we can continue with the podcast. So one thing that we wanted to touch on today is not only just this haunting in Venice and Hercule Poirot, but we wanted to look at some of our other favourite detectives. Before we launch into that, I kind of wanted to talk about Hercule Poirot as a detective and kind of your opinions on him. I think that he is probably one of my favourite detectives, based on the fact that it never feels like he is, even though he sometimes has a hard time and it's difficult to figure out, it always feels like when he is explaining at the end about, you know, who the killer is and what the motives are, it never feels like he's wrong or he's gone astray. He might go astray in the actual investigating and, you know, pick up on wrong leads there, but when he's kind of making the final reveal, he hits the nail on the head, and it never feels like there's that moment where, with a lot of other detectives and a lot of other kind of whodunits and stories like this, that our main character always finds out right at the moment where the villain also reveals themselves. You know,
and then the villain would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna grab this person as hostage, or I'm gonna start making my escape, or I'm pointing a gun at everyone."
Exactly, yeah. It's always that kind of the realization. You see their eyes go as big as, you know, a deer caught in headlights. They turn around and there's the bad guy with the gun. So it's like it's not even like they found it out. It's kind of like they just realized, and then all of a sudden it's revealed. So even if they didn't realize it, it would have been revealed anyway. So it never feels like Hercule Poirot is that. You know, what do you think?
I'm thinking of a specific Liam Neeson movie on a plane. So that I like that. I like all sorts of different whodunit reveals, and it does feel like in each movie with Hercule Poirot, he's announcing to who's in front of him who committed the murder, and then we go into the hows and whens and whys and all that jazz. And it never leads to a violent astray. Not really. No other person is harmed. No other good person, I should say. And when these things are done, it's like Hercule Poirot is very unviolent about it. You know, if you were to watch this movie, these movies, and if you were to get a sense of who Hercule Poirot is, when Hercule Poirot is going to hold a gun and point it at you, that's like the equivalent of like Captain America fighting Thanos. So like, oh my god, this is like the everything is just like skyrocketing right here. Like, you know, it's like in an episode of Downton Abbey when everyone is trying to find a spoon because it's meant for the Queen or something like that, and they just can't find it.
It's a big event, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the norm. It's more like, so in the Death of the Nile, that is my favourite villain culprit reveal, because when Poirot announces it to everyone, the couple did it. First of all, they start to deny it, and they're thinking to themselves, "Oh, we're caught. No, deny it." But no, he go, you know, routine, how, when, and why they did it, and then everyone starts pointing guns at each other. The couple starts pointing a gun at them. The old black lady who was amongst the suspects, she has a gun, and she was confirmed to be like a bit of an ally to Poirot in the second one. She has her own gun. She points it at someone because one of the people who was killed in that movie, her niece was friends with. So like, oh, she's a bit of stake in the game as well. And then Poirot has a gun as well. He points it at them as well. So like, all of a sudden in Death of the Nile, in the end, everyone's putting guns at each other, and this is like, oh my god, shit is about to hit a fan. Now I'm saying this knowing that my expectations are very much tempered, because I don't expect that, and likely so. They shoot themselves instead of start blasting firearms. Yeah. So that was my favourite one. So what I'm trying to say in that sense is that Hercule Poirot is not violent at all. He detects criminals just like that.
He takes it really personally, you know, like, because he tends to be like, oh, I'm just on my holidays, you know, and all of a sudden I'm thrust into this, and like, you always get that the bit where he's before the crime is taking place, and he's just kind of getting to know people, and it feels like he's always out to just like, he like likes people, you know, and he likes to get to know them and stuff like that, and he kind of, maybe he's doing a little bit of detecting, like, he's just, but he's not using it, he's not using anything.
That's just who he is. Anyone.
It's just who he is. He can't help it. But then once the crime happens, he's like disgusted, like he's so disappointed, and he was like, and I thought I was just.
Sorry to interrupt there, but you just brought me back to that scene into the murder on the Orient Express, when the murder has happened and the train cars have stopped and everyone's having their like breakfast, and then one of the, I don't know, a conductor or someone who's sort of like taking, it was Hercule Poirot's friend, he's trying to announce everyone to tell them what's going on. Hercule Poirot's just standing there, he doesn't want to get involved, and he's like, oh, fine. You can just see it in his face, and what's the first thing he says? There's been a murder. And he starts walking up the carriage, charging chest out, looking at everyone. He's like, I was supposed to be on my holidays, but fine, I'll do it, and I'm going to find out who did it. That I really like that. He's like, no bullshit, let's go. He said it in the movie, he's on the case. It's come to think of it, yeah, well, he's a very charming gentleman, Kenneth Branagh does a great job playing him.
Yeah. But we wanted to also not only just look at Hercule Poirot, but talk about some of our other favourite detectives. So we all both picked 3 of our favourite detectives through literature. And I think what's important now, I don't know what your 3 are, and I don't think you know what my 3 are. But I don't know about you. I've picked 3 that are completely different to Hercule Poirot and also completely different to each other. They all have different styles of certain things. But do you want to go first? Do you want to talk us through some of your favourite detectives through literature?
Sure. Now, not all of them are detectives per se, but they're definitely of the detecting criminals, so to speak. So I'll start off from the get-go. Raylan Givens from Justified, played by Timothy Oliphant in the 6th season running Justified. Timothy Oliphant plays U.S. Deputy Marshal Raylan Givens, and he's the type of guy who would pretty much whip out his sidearm and pull the trigger if he feels like it is justified. And he never does it to the point where he, gets discharged or, charged with anything, and pretty much sets off the course of the show, sending him to relocate to his hometown in Harlan, Kentucky. And then he's faced off with his old friend and now foe, arch nemesis throughout the movie, played by Walton Goggins. And then it's like the first season is actually almost like episodic, like a crook of the week. And then from season 2 onward, it pretty much takes on a seasonal canon storyline. Pretty much. And Raylan Givens, he's like, he's gonna do the right thing, even though he'll even let the innocent person being threatened to think that he doesn't give a shit about them, but he will do the right thing at the end of the day, even though if that means shooting the bad guy, he will pull that trigger. I remember in this one scene in the show, he's getting his sidearm ready, telling 2 guys to back off and stay where they are, and your man's not really believing them. Well, can I come just a bit closer so I can talk to you so I'm not shouting? Obviously implying he just wants to get closer to get a good shot at him. Well, he says, you take 1 step closer, I'm going to shoot you. Took 1 step closer, and he shot him. That's it.
No messing about.
And as he said, it was justified. So I really like Raylan Givens, and funny enough, Timothy Oliphant always plays a marshal of the sorts in this, Boba Fett, Deadwood, Fargo. It just keeps going on and on. So it's kind of funny. He suits him quite well in the role.
Yeah.
I've got another detective who I would like to say is definitely a favourite. Al Pacino as Vincent Hanna in Heat. Heat is a real good cops and robber type of movie with these, yin and yang, cat and mouse chasing after each other. And Heat is a great classic action movie where I think everyone's always just going to root for the bad guy, the bad boy, Robert De Niro, but Al Pacino as Vincent Hanna, who is married to his work, so he can't maintain a healthy relationship with his girlfriend. He can't bring those 2 worlds together, even though he might not even look like he's trying. And Al Pacino playing as zany, as wacky, and as loud as he is just no go, no stop. Brings his girlfriend's daughter to the hospital because she just arrested in the bathtub. It doesn't take much for him to get that push to go chase Robert De Niro, because he knows there's something going on down at the hotel airport, and he just chases after him. And Heat is a high movie I hold in high regard, and I just I think most of the time we're always not rooting for the cop so much, but not that I wasn't rooting for Al Pacino in Heat, but let's just say I'm quite satisfied in how it ended, and I didn't want Heat to end in any other way. I didn't want to end in the opposite way it did, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Heat. Not a famous character, but I think they're trying to do it like a prequel or a sequel type of movie. But that's a story for another time. And my third favourite, in no particular order, of favourite detective, Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Inc. Gang. Yeah. Do you know how many monsters, ghouls and goblins Scooby-Doo has unearthed and unmasked and saved the day? Like, and
Literally every single one.
Fred likes to take all the credit, but man, Scooby Doo doesn't even have to try. He falls into action. He gets a couple of Scooby snacks on the way. He just does his thing, and there you go. And yeah, and even Velma as well. Like, man, just why are like Fred and Daphne there? Like, Fred's just the driver. That's it. And man, Scooby Doo,
The leader, he holds everyone together. Yeah.
man, I'm telling you, David, and I'm talking about specifically Scooby Doo. Where are you in that era? Not specifically that one. Yeah, very likable. And Scooby Doo, great detective. What about you?
I have to say that those are some great choices. I was really not expecting Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Inc. gang.
I'm telling you.
They're great, man. When they went to Zombie Island, they really figured that stuff out. That was it for me, man. Zombie Island. Yeah, I picked 3 different ones to you, obviously. So my first is Benoit Blanc from the Knives Out movies, both Knives Out and Glass Onion. I think that what Ryan Johnson did of bringing that kind of whodunit, but he's putting his own spin on it. And I think Benoit Blanc, he could have very easily been a very laughable character. Like, when he starts talking in Knives Out, and he's got that like thick southern like I see, and you're like, okay, is he gonna talk like this the whole movie? But then it like fits him so perfectly. He plays it so well, and he's a great, like, he's almost close to Hercule Poirot in he's very, very intelligent, and he's so confident but not cocky as well. Like, he has that moment in Glass Onion where Edward Norton sets up the murder mystery, and before it's even happened, he's already figured it out, and he ruins it for him. And it's just because I think he
can't help it.
Juxtaposed. Yeah, he can't help it. He likes it. He actually quite likes being the the detective and figuring stuff out, while Hercule Poirot wanted to retire. Benoit Blanc's not at that stage just yet. He still likes it, and he's like, oh, I have it, here it is, and figures it out. So I quite like that.
Yeah,
and I look forward to seeing more of his stories, because they're not based on any books. There's not anything. He's an original character, and so Ryan Johnson's, the stories that he's telling with him are all new, and so you really are not expecting what's coming.
I think he'd be the most comparable to Hercule Poirot in terms of their similarities and their differences, and then again just the style of how they're put on screen, their own anthology movies,
Yeah, that you don't need to really see any of the other ones to kind of understand, like, okay, it's just he's the detective and he's going to figure this out. You don't need to have seen all of the other ones.
And I hear Ryan Johnson's third one is going to be taking a new spin on it, like Kenneth Branagh did with this.
Good. I'm excited. My next choice is Batman, specifically Robert Pattinson's version of the world's greatest detective in the Batman.
I was actually thinking about choosing Batman myself, but because Robert Pattinson's Batman's the only depiction of that noir greatest detective. So, and he's always portrayed as a superhero as opposed to a detective. So I thought maybe, well, I'm glad that I didn't pick him and that you did, because he's a great mention.
You're definitely right. Everything up until Robert Pattinson was very much like action heavy, like actual superhero, whereas with the newest iteration in the Batman, it is very much a noir and figuring stuff out. And I think the Riddler was a great character to go up against for him, to really kind of push him to his, the best of his detective abilities. But it's something that I want to see going forward. I really want to see more of the Batman world, that kind of genre, to stay in that genre of working stuff out, because there's some great villains that we can see, and have it be a mystery and figuring stuff out. Like, he's got like Hush, he's got Mr. Freeze, even though he is, typically like maybe a bit more action heavy, he is it's a tragic story of a lost love, and you can do that as a mystery and figuring stuff out, that he's not a bad guy, he's doing something for the right reasons, he's doing the wrong things for the right reasons, stuff like that. So it's something that I want to see explored more, just his actual detective abilities. So I hope that even in any kind of future iterations under James Gunn, with Brave and the Bold, I hope that we do get to see those kind of, see why he is called the world's greatest detective.
I would like Robert Pattinson to be the definitely more grounded, sort of limited on technology, tools around him, whereas the Batman in The Brave and the Bold to be pretty much what Ben Affleck's Batman was. That's
But
how
you
I
would
would
still like to
it
see
go.
that kind of.
No,
You would
not
like
really.
to see that he is smart. No, you don't. Okay.
No. What I don't want. We're gonna get two Batmans ongoing, so I would like them to be as different as possible.
Okay.
I would like the Batman in The Brave and the Bold to be the superhero Batman, and Robert Pattinson's Batman to remain the detective Batman.
Okay. So you're
Yeah.
scratching, I suppose, both itches there of
Yeah.
we've seen kind of nearly two versions of the character, and
Oh, yeah.
they serve separate purposes. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, and then my third choice is K from Blade Runner 2049, portrayed by Ryan Gosling. I just think that his story is great, and the whole being not only a detective and trying to figure out this mystery, but being a part of that mystery and seeing where do you fit into all of this, and not quite knowing yourself, and seeing do you fit into these pieces. It's fantastic, and I think that it's his portrayal of Kay, Ryan Gosling's portrayal of Kay, like, just adds an extra layer on top of it.
I think anyone who's seen Blade Runner 2049 knows exactly what you were talking about. I think you don't need to explain it. You watch the movie, you get it. Even if you don't like the movie, you can understand. I 100% agree with you. And I like that. It almost feels like a little bit of a dark horse you put out there, so I actually like that choice.
Yeah, so those are my three detectives. Three, some of my favorite detectives. Not even including the likes of like Sherlock Holmes. We didn't even touch on him, but yeah, no, I think that's all of the detecting that we can do this week. You want to launch into some recommendations before we let these good folks go home?
Can do.
Brilliant. So I think I'll start us off then. My recommendation for this week is a movie called Return to Paradise. It's starring a young Joaquin Phoenix and a young Vince Vaughn. It's kind of hard to describe it without spoiling the plot for you, but essentially it's about these two guys. They kind of meet on their holidays, and through a set of circumstances, one of them is imprisoned, and the other one finds out about it and is given the option that if you come back to, I think it's in Taiwan, if you come back, you will go to prison, but it will save the first guy's life. So he has to make that choice, do I go back? There's also a third guy that they kind of either both go back and they can reduce the sentence, they both get 2 years, or if one of them goes back, he gets 6 years. So it's an interesting one on like a moral question of like, would you do this for someone that you just met on your holidays? Did you have a part to play in it? It's an interesting one. Two actors like we both know, we all know Vince Vaughn and Joaquin Phoenix, and they're both in these kind of early on, I suppose, in their careers. They're young. It's them before they're Joaquin Phoenix and Vince Vaughn,
Yeah.
But it's a great one. I hadn't heard about it. I'd never heard anyone talking about it until like a couple of weeks ago there. I just heard it on a podcast, and when mentioned it in passing, it was just like, oh, has anyone seen this? It wasn't even like they were doing it in depth or anything like that, and I said I'd give it a go, and I was surprised at how good it was. So that'd be my recommendation for this week.
100%. My recommendation for this week is 8 episodes of the first season called Hannah. You can watch it now on Amazon Prime, and it is pretty much the TV version, though widely expanded and elaborated on the 2011 movie, which starred Saoirse Ronan and Eric Bana. So this series, 3 seasons, and it's finished, stars Esme Creed Miles, who is the real-life daughter of Samantha Morton from The Walking Dead and such, and Joel Kinnaman. And it's about this father who raises his daughter in the wilderness somewhere in a European country, pretty much until she's like 15, to be a feral, savage, brutal hunter, murderer, assassin. And when it comes time to leave home of the force by certain means and faults, she leaves pretty much one jungle to another jungle in that of European cities to track down the people who killed her mother. And that father-daughter relationship is just becoming a genre in itself, or let's say found father, found daughter, father figure, child figure. Pedro Pascal in both The Last of Us and The Mandalorian, as well as the 65 movie with the dinosaurs, Adam Driver and your one. And what's another one I'm thinking of? You can show Obi-Wan Kenobi in his show out there as well, and then The Last of Us, obviously the game itself. So I think that this is just becoming a genre in itself, that you're just loving the relationship, and I really like the relationship. Like every time we're focusing on Hannah, and I just want to see the father again, because I want him to be there for her. And I really like this first season of it, and I'm happy it's only 3 seasons. I'd like it to, keep going, and if you watch the movie Hannah, it's the premise of that, but it pretty much delves into its own sort of initiative and story beats. So I recommend that. 8 episodes.
That's good when you like that, where you really like a character, but you want to see them with another character at the same time. It's like, okay, I really like this character and I really like this character, but I just want to see them together. I want to see the relationship between them. Yeah. So it's like that
for the sake of one of the characters. Like, it's okay to see Joel come in on its own because he can handle himself, but I want to see her with him for that extra security. Yeah. Everything should be fine when she's with her father, even though it's never the case, because we're watching it for the plot.
Yeah. It's like that with even when we were watching The Last of Us. Any scene with Joel is great, any scene with Ellie is great, but any scene with Joel and Ellie is just exceptional. That's what you want to see, is their relationship. So it's good that you found that now in a new show as well with Hannah. So that's awesome. But I think that does it for this episode of Talking Pictures. You got anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Oh no, let's wrap it up. My back hurts.
Let's wrap it up. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you could give us 5 stars on your podcast app of choice, we'd really appreciate it. It helps us. It costs you nothing. It just helps us with visibility and making sure that other people get to listen to this, and we get to share opinions and stuff. We've new episodes every single Wednesday when you wake up on your podcast app of choice. We're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Facebook, we are on every social media that you could possibly think of. We're absolutely everywhere. You can't get rid of us. So just make sure that you're following just for updates and stuff like that. If you want to send us in an email, if you want to send us in suggestions or questions or anything like that you'd like to hear us talk about on the podcast, that'd be fantastic. You can send it into talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com. Everything will be down below in the description. We actually have we're doing a special bonus episode this weekend. Be on the lookout for that. We got in an email from a regular listener who he just went really in depth with it, and we thought, this deserves a bit of a special episode, just to talk about the email, go through that and answer some questions from him. So look out for that this weekend. But yeah, I think that's everything. Any final words?
I'll say good day.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye, David.